Here's the truth. Short-term wins mean nothing if they don't contribute to lasting advantage. Take NVIDIA as an example. Their overlapping development streams and 6-month release cadence were key factors that helped them surpass industry giants like Intel. This rhythm wasn't accidental. It reflected a disciplined system that kept immediate results aligned with long-term dominance. To understand how strategies like this actually work, we'll use Richard Rumelt's 3-part kernel: diagnosis, guiding policy, and coherent actions. NVIDIA's engineering rhythm is a striking illustration of coherent actions in practice. But before any of that matters, the first step is getting the diagnosis right. If you're new here, please subscribe and like, because I share tips to help you improve your career. A clear diagnosis means asking the right question at the start: what's going on here? Without answering this with honesty and precision, every move that follows risks being wasted effort. Richard Rumelt argues that diagnosis simplifies reality to identify critical aspects and is essential to strategy. It's the process of cutting through noise, recognizing patterns, and linking facts into a coherent picture of the challenge you face. Consider Digital Equipment Corporation. In the 1980s, leadership misread the shift toward personal computing, assuming that the rise of PCs would remain a passing distraction compared to their established mini-computer business. Instead of confronting the industry transformation directly, they clung to existing operations and debated endlessly about whether to adapt. The real failure wasn't just hesitation, it was their inability to clearly diagnose that computing had fundamentally moved from centralized to distributed systems. Misdiagnosis cost them their market position and eventually their independence. This is why diagnosis matters. It prevents leaders from chasing after surface symptoms while ignoring what truly constrains growth. One practical way to strengthen your own diagnosis is to list the key assumptions you're using to explain your business environment and ask, if one of these turned out to be false, which would most alter your view of the challenge? This exercise forces you to confront uncomfortable truths rather than simply confirming what you want to believe. Another common pattern is the temptation to leap toward emerging trends, AI, blockchain, the metaverse, without checking whether they actually address your core obstacles. A strong diagnosis provides a filter. Does this opportunity align with the challenge I've identified, or is it a distraction? Asking this sharpens focus, keeping resources aimed at what truly matters rather than whatever is fashionable in the moment. An accurate diagnosis is more than analysis, it's the foundation for everything that follows. Once the real challenge is clear, the next step is translating that insight into a guiding logic that directs how you move forward. Without that bridge, diagnosis risks staying theoretical rather than shaping real decisions. Turning a clear view of the challenge into meaningful progress depends on the next step: crafting your guiding policy. This is where strategy becomes actionable. A guiding policy isn't a slogan or a lofty ambition. It's a practical framework that defines how you'll address the challenge you've identified. It channels action and rules out irrelevant approaches, forcing alignment between choices and direction. Many leaders mistake aspirations like be the market leader for strategy. But these statements don't resolve hard trade-offs or guide daily decision-making. A guiding policy does exactly that. It provides the lens through which every significant allocation of time and resources is judged. Policy equals the decisions you permit and the options you exclude. Consider Apple's transformation under Steve Jobs. Their guiding policy wasn't simply make great products. It was to simplify and focus on core excellence. That directive wasn't abstract. It shaped their most critical moves, cutting dozens of redundant product lines, concentrating disproportionate investment on design capabilities, and integrating hardware and software into a distinctive ecosystem. These weren't isolated choices, but deliberate constraints reflecting a policy that made execution faster and more coherent. For contrast, Lou Gerstner at IBM reframed the company's diagnosis and adopted a guiding policy focused on leveraging integrated capabilities for customers. Instead of competing as fragmented business units, IBM positioned itself as the provider of holistic solutions, shifting decisions across the organization toward integration rather than disjointed offerings. The power of a guiding policy comes from this kind of focus. It clarifies what matters, so leaders can say no to the distractions that drain momentum. For you as an executive, one practical step is to define 2 trade-offs your organization will accept this quarter, one capability you will double down on, and one you will stop pursuing. The discipline of constraining options produces sharper focus. It ensures that your organization is not only clear on what it will do, but equally clear on what it won't. By setting this directional logic, you create the conditions for execution. But having direction alone isn't enough. Strategy only produces results when guiding policy is transformed into coordinated, reinforcing actions. That's the test most organizations stumble on next. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and like, because it helps us create content that matters to you. Also, if you want to take your skills further, check out our executive education and executive coaching programs at execbeat.com. The strength of a strategy ultimately comes from how it is carried out, which is where the power of coherent action becomes clear. Coherent action means that initiatives are deliberately designed to work together, each reinforcing the others rather than competing for resources or pulling the organization in different directions. NVIDIA's approach is a clear illustration. Their system wasn't a collection of unrelated tactics. It was a tightly coordinated design. They maintained a 6-month release cadence, ran 3 overlapping development streams, one focused on the current generation, one on the next, and one on experimental architectures, used advanced emulation facilities so driver development could begin before chips were physically available, and unified their driver architecture so every board could run on the same software. Each of these moves strengthened the others. Together, they created a machine that not only kept pace with market demands, but also steadily expanded NVIDIA's technological lead. This coherence generated compounding effects. Every release built on prior generations, each lesson fed into the next product line, and every supporting function, from marketing to sales training, was synchronized to match engineering milestones. Customer expectations could be set with confidence because delivery schedules were reliable and new products entered the market with momentum already behind them. Tactics, when connected in this way, became part of a strategic rhythm rather than isolated wins. Contrast this with Ford's missteps decades earlier, where contradictory initiatives undermined one another. The company poured resources into high-cost designs while also pushing for cost efficiency, a clash that eroded both objectives. The lesson is straightforward. Without coherence, even bold moves cancel each other out. With coherence, every action points in the same direction and strengthens the core bet defined by the guiding policy. As Richard Rumelt emphasizes, the essence of coherent action is that multiple efforts must operate in unison. It is through this alignment that organizations create leverage, using each initiative to magnify the impact of the others. Coherent actions mean your releases, marketing, sales, and operations all push the same architectural bet. Every short-term win must extend your long-term capability. And it's this discipline of linkage that turns strategy into something you can use every single day. Conclusion means turning concepts into practice. The kernel framework makes strategy usable by structuring it into 3 connected parts: diagnosis, guiding policy, and coherent action. To apply it, pick one proximate objective for this quarter. Then write down a 1-sentence diagnosis of the challenge, a single-line guiding policy, and 3 coordinated actions to carry it out. As Richard Rumelt argues, advantage comes not from abstract slogans, but from focusing energy on pivotal objectives and aligning actions behind them. Think of it as 3 steps: diagnose, direct, deliver. Share in the comments your one-sentence diagnosis or which kernel element you find most challenging. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like because it helps us bring you more free videos. And if you're ready to grow your career, visit execbeat.com to learn about our executive education and coaching.